I would like to call the.
And just hit your mic, make sure your mic's on. Are we live streaming in the back too? We ready? Okay.
Good? Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you. I would like to call to order the Ad Hoc Technology Committee.
Okay.
Teresa, will you please call the roll?
All right, Ms. Peo
Here.
and Ms. Duarte.
Here.
We have two committee members present.
Thank you. Today, we're going to be talking about the digital divide, and presenting today will be Mike Lively. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to come before the committee to talk about a little bit of a good topic that we want to talk about as we transition. We'll focus on initiatives from the strategic plan. So each meeting will have a different topic, and this topic of this meeting will be the digital divide. And so before I start, I wanted to provide just an overview and then let India open it up.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. First, I just want to say thank you to everybody for really making this happen. I know it's been a few months since we were in the room, and we also have some key folks, I think, that are stepping up as far as IT goes to really connect the wires as well as the community to really make us be ahead of the curve when it comes to IT. So if I can, I will, I'll do this if you can hear me a little clearer, just be able to kind of introduce the mission and the vision. So talking with Mike Lively, I think this is really important. He also supports that in really setting the stage for the idea of IT becoming a conduit for us to become more efficient and more successful in how we serve the community. So you'll see the mission and the vision here. They should look a little different to you if you have been here for more than a year. The mission now is connecting the community. It used to be very tactical. Again, both very important things, but we really wanted to get to the connections, why we're here, how we affect folks' lives as far as mobility. And part of that is the ease of use and whether or not folks think it's easy to pay your fare, hop on board the bus or the train, be able to look up a map, be able to pull down data. All of those things make an impression. And this is part of the reason why we changed over from our previous mission statement, which was a little more nuts and bolts of it all, to connecting the community so folks would see us as a mobility provider and solution kind of think tank, more so than just the bus and the train company. The vision statement, leading the delivery of safe and creative mobility solutions and community connections, of course, is to be able to supplant that earlier mission statement so that we really start to get into the creative niche. And this is really the embodiment of that, to be able to think about solutions-based activities and not just solving or putting out fires. We want to really be able to think long-term. And a lot of the things that Mike is going to go through as far as the kind of trajectory and short and also a little bit of the long-term planning for the IT division is to be able to think about how we're getting to solutions, because we've got plenty of issues, right? Everybody's got that. So there's plenty of questions and we want to be able to come with answers. So with that, I think I will hand it back over to you, Mike, if you want to launch into that.
Thanks, India. Yeah, so as we talk about technology, we're really going to focus on two items from our strategic plan. This strategic plan was adopted by our board. And the two items we want to talk about are improving how customers pay, so using technology, but also creating more equitable system for our customers, and engage in emergency technology, data, and new mobility. So regarding how customers pay, I've recently presented to the board multiple times as we're transitioning our fare collection system. And the main thing is when we had our fare study, was to implement the fare equity study in that pillar that we focused on, as well as to change our fare collection to improve the experience and better reflect best practices. And as mentioned in the recent presentations, the main keys are the open architecture, contactless, account-based stored value, fare capping, and open payments, allowing for a more regional system and easy system for customers to pay, while at the same time understanding that not everyone has a cellular device, so creating an equitable system with benefits while using new technology. The second one we're going to talk about is this emerging technology. Transit is very tech forward in a lot of things that we do. Most people don't realize how sophisticated our buses and trains have become over the years, that they really are just a rolling data hub. At any given time, we can have up to 15 computer-type devices on our vehicles. And so with emergency technology, we wanted to kind of experiment with connected vehicles, improve our infrastructure, so being connected throughout the community and street lights and fare payments and different things for different municipalities, enhance our real-time information, not just from our riders, but also other partners and agencies, and then also start to pilot mobility and management solutions. And so these are the two things that we'll focus on as we present to this ad hoc committee. But the main thing we want to talk about today is the digital divide. So prior to COVID, a lot of people probably didn't even know and recognize what the digital divide was. So these are actually statistics from Digital C here in Cleveland. And so Cleveland actually in 2018 was rated one of the lowest rates of connectivity for households. And pre-COVID, in 2019 study showed that about 30% of all households within Cleveland didn't have mobile broadband. So that means they had no connected internet. So unless they were at their business, school, maybe a library, they did not have adequate access when at home. And when the pandemic really started to hit in March 2020, it really kind of came to light. And so, schools and as the nation started shutting down, a lot of companies were transitioning to remote telecommuting. The schools shut down for a couple weeks, and then they transitioned to remote learning. And we clearly saw that we weren't prepared at the time, that teachers weren't prepared to teach remote. Students didn't have access. They didn't have the devices needed to do that. And so it really kind of brought it to light, and the need for the digital divide to be bridged, especially within the Cleveland community. Now, being forward-thinking in 2019, so pre-COVID, RTA, we had launched an innovative radio replacement project. So a lot of benefits to the organization, to our customers. We essentially ripped out all of the equipment on our current vehicles and installed state-of-the-art technology. Part of that is we installed mobile routers. We used to have an old radio system that provided some information for us, but we put in new mobile routers. And with that, we needed AT&T service for us. So we need AT&T service for RTA, but to install no additional hardware and really have no additional significant costs, we were able to add another SIM through AT&T, which allowed us to provide unlimited, unthrottled internet access for our riders. And so we launched complimentary Wi-Fi. We've seen tremendous growth, as I'll show here shortly. And from this project, we actually received a nationwide innovation award. So you can see we launched it right around, the Wi-Fi we launched right around COVID. So it was right around that March 2020 timeframe. So not knowing COVID was going to happen, just something that we had planned on doing. So you could see ridership was relatively low over the last year and a half, but the adoption of Wi-Fi on our vehicles expanded exponentially. You can see the different lines there. So Hayden is our east side garage. That it only has 10 more buses than our Triscuit garage, which is on the west side, but you can see the usage. So Hayden uses more, Hayden riders use more Wi-Fi on a daily and monthly basis than the other three garages combined. And so right now we're averaging upwards of, averaging upwards of 16 terabytes of data per month that we're able to provide as complimentary to our customers. And so we were able to start bridging that digital divide before COVID and all those things actually even took place. In addition, Chris Orlando and his IT team installed Wi-Fi at multiple rail stations. And so this was, Tower City, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, Windermere, Cedar University, and our Southgate Transit Center. They were able to provide, we called them homework hotspots. So, a safe space that, students can come, access internet, do their homework, and, that not even if they don't ride RTA, but they can still come here as a safe space. And so we have the vehicles Wi-Fi, we have our station Wi-Fi, and then we're going to continue to expand this to continue to bridge that digital divide. Some other things we did, so using the technology that we installed to provide that Wi-Fi, we're now able to be a partner within the community. And so this is just an example. So in 2021, RTA held multiple job fairs. And so this was, I believe, in August. The weather was nice then. And so we held multiple job fairs. And so you can see the buses parked around. And so we actually used our buses to conduct interviews for our potential recruits. And so I think on this day we had I wouldn't say a couple hundred recruits that have come in. And so we were able to streamline the process through the hard work of HR. And, they could submit their application, they could go through all the paperwork, conduct the interview, and get an offer the same day while using the technology. So they were actually conducting the interviews on the vehicles. And so I mentioned this to show that we can continue to be a partner within the community so that using the technology that we have in our vehicles, since they do provide the Wi-Fi, we can go to different locations and be able to, essentially be a connection for the community for any type of events they might have. Another thing we're expanding, so I mentioned we have the Wi-Fi at some stations, but not all stations. So some of the stations to provide internet access would be very it wouldn't be cost effective because you may be digging and doing some construction work to bring in, cables to the station. So in order to do that, so what we're going to do is, so this is the first of the TVs that will be placed. So we're going to put TVs at all of our rapid stations. And so a lot of real-time TVs and signs that you see in other transit authorities can be very expensive. And so they can be anywhere up to $8,000 to $10,000 per sign. The sign you see here is about $1,000. It's a standard TV, so it's easy to replace, and it has a mobile router powered on. So the same Wi-Fi that our customers enjoy on our buses and trains powers this TV screen. And so what that does is you can be near the TV, you'll get the real-time information. So if you do not have a cellular device, you can still see when the next bus or train is arriving, as well as you'll get free Wi-Fi. And so if you do have a cellular device, but maybe not a full cellular plan, you provide the same Wi-Fi. And using the same Wi-Fi name, which is RTA Wi-Fi, on our buses and trains, the same SSID, you can essentially be waiting at a train station, getting complimentary free Wi-Fi, seeing when your bus is going to arrive, and then board the train, and your Wi-Fi will never drop. It will be a fully connected trip from the time that you're waiting to the time you're boarding and riding. You have Wi-Fi. So by putting these throughout all of our stations, essentially, if you're on a vehicle, if you're on a train, you're at a train station, you will always have Wi-Fi and connectivity when riding RTA. Some other innovative things we're doing to bridge that digital divide is we have new buses that are coming in. So we order new buses every year. This is one of the new Healthline vehicles as part of our new fleet. And so we have what we call infotainment on our vehicles. And so we have onboard messaging. So we're able to play videos, we're able to do PA announcements, and they're equipped with these signs. And you can see, this is what we call a ladder. So you can see the next stops coming up. And so it is ADA compliant and visual for those that are visually impaired too. So the announcements correlate with the sign itself. And so as you're coming up to a sign, it will show you the next stops, and then you'll hear the announcement saying next stop, and then it will usually go through and tell things. And another thing we started doing is, so we used to have this robotic computer voice. So if you ever rode one of our vehicles and you heard that voice, it sounds like a computer voice, and it's not always that clear. And so we started recording our own announcements internally, and we now record those in Spanish with members of our scheduling department. And so we can record them in English and Spanish and display them at the same time. And the last thing we'll talk about as it comes to the digital divide is the new fare collection system. So as mentioned, we're doing a soft launch of a new fare collection system. It's going to be a regional fare collection system with our other partners, PARTA, Akron Metro, Late Tran, SARTA. And but the key thing we always want to focus on are those people those riders that may not have a smart device, that may not have a cellular device. And so the fare payment's going to work great with those that do. It's going to be similar where it's going to be a visual inspection or scan on the validator. But for those riders that don't have a cellular device, we're going to provide smart cards to those riders for free. And so what that allows them to do is have account-based tickets. It provides them fare capping. So fare capping is probably the biggest benefit that we're going to provide to our riders from this new system. Fare capping being you will always be capped in a daily pass and a monthly pass. And so today, if you don't have the ability to pay for a monthly pass up front, you're always going to pay more than the person that does. And that creates that unequitable system. And so with fare capping, if you have a smart card, you have an account base to it. So mine would be like, M Lively, my email attached to it. I could load cash onto my smart card if it's $5 a day, $10 every couple of days. And then once I would reach the daily or the monthly cap, I would never pay more than $95. So for some of our daily riders that are maybe underbanked, it could save them up to $35, a month, which is significant. And so that's going to be the biggest piece of this. And so for those that don't have a cellular device, they'll get all the benefits of the new technology with a smart card. And these are just some pictures. And so these are our actual vehicles. These are the validators that we're installing on the vehicles now. So we had the vendor out. And so you can see it from the left to the right. On the left, that is the validator at the front door of the Healthline vehicles. We can do them either horizontal or vertical based on safety and ADA compliance. The second one is the back right door of the vehicle. And then the other one, this was a phone, but this is what will be on the back of the smart card. So this is if you had a smart card, you could go to a retailer, trade $5 cash, they would load it onto your smart card, and then you have a smart card, and then you get the fare capping benefits. And so that was kind of the topic for today, was just the digital divide, what we've done in the past and what we're continuing to do to bridge it, to be part of the community and to ensure that everyone has access to necessary amenities and information.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I have a couple. All right. You mentioned the percentage of people that do not have connectivity, and I recalled last we spoke about it, it was a number from 2019 on your slides. Do we anticipate getting a new number now that everything's?
Yeah, I'm going to look for those numbers because I would love to see, because I know, Verizon, AT&T were really out in the community, especially during COVID when schools were going to remote and businesses as well, to find out, how much they've bridged it as well, to get a better idea of, how connected are we in Cleveland now. Okay. So I will find that.
Thank you. And another question is, you mentioned that the Wi-Fi connectivity is unlimited and unthrottled. I know what unthrottled means. Can you please help, in case others do not know what that means? Okay.
So unthrottled would be, for cellular carriers, if there is too much data being consumed, they may, on their network, they may throttle it down, meaning they're going to slow your speed from 5G to maybe 4G, even 3G. And so unthrottled means it will always provide. Ours is 4G, that high-speed 4G at all times. So it will never bring that down.
Awesome. And you did mention about the 5 stations that currently have Wi-Fi connectivity, and there is plans to expand. Do we have goals that we're trying to attain, whether it be per year or per quarter, to try to expand?
So all rail stations will be complete by the end of the year. Oh. And so with the TVs, they just need power. Mm-hmm. And so that's the great thing about them. There's no construction needed. And so we already have the devices. And so we'll just begin installing those throughout our stations. They'll be done before the end of the year.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Anyone in the room have any questions?
Just more of a comment, I think. Even in the beginning, Mike, in your presentation, you talked about translative services or translation on the messaging boards to Spanish. And I think that's a really good indication of our ability to really reach more individuals than what we typically do. So I just wanted to sort of bring that up as a way to think about different, whether it's Palatins, whether it's, messaging and advertising that we have that's in electronic form. Those should also be thought about being translated to different languages, especially as we ride through different neighborhoods. That might be something that we can talk to the marketing folks about if we have new contracts that come out, for example. And geofencing and geospatial sort of advertising, I don't know if that's ever been a topic of discussion at RTA, but that's something we should probably explore as well. I'm not sure if anybody has thoughts on that, but there are different marketing I don't want to say ploys, right? But marketing opportunities to be able to connect the digital marketing that you see on your phone and other opportunities, whatever platform you're utilizing. If you're on our website, it's kind of almost geospatially knowing where you are and what your route pattern is and what your travel pattern is, and being able to match that up with, okay, there's a Dunkin' Donuts that's coming up, in 2 blocks. Or, hey, you're waiting on the bus stop at, so-and-so in Euclid. there's a Starbucks around the corner. You've got 10 minutes. Now all of a sudden you see an ad for a latte. It makes you want to be able to invest in the community on an economic scale that is almost like that subliminal reminder of knowing where you are. If you ever, looked at your phone history, there's not a big coincidence that all of a sudden you see an ad pop up for something, that you might have bought last week at Target. So those might be good streams of revenue and good advertising opportunities for us in the future on our services as well.
Yeah, I see that too, like on navigation apps. Yeah. Fantastic.
Not a coincidence at all.
Anyone else have any questions? From public comments coming? Yes?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Stocking from Cleveland. I think most of you guys know me. Thanks for holding this meeting, and it's really exciting to hear about the new fare system, to hear about fare capping. These are things that CPT, Clevelanders for Public Transit, has been asking for in our Fares platform since February 2018. So it's really exciting to see these things coming down the pike. So I just want to give kudos to you guys for getting this new fare system going. It's much overdue. I did have some quick comments, and I did type them up to make it easy for Teresa, so you just paste them in the minutes. But I figured I'd come on my way home from work and catch you guys. You were talking about the audio announcements. I noticed on the Rapid the past few months, it's just like much shorter stop announcements. Like it used to be like West 25th Street, the West Side Market, this bus, and it'd like go on forever and ever. Like you hear it every day, and it's like honestly pretty annoying as a daily rider. Like let's just be frank. So it's really nice. Like actually, it's just like a kind of mechanical voice, but it's just like East 55th Street, Tower City, and like that's it. And I noticed that the audio ads are gone, which is excellent because it really, if you have a audio announcement for like a service disruption, it makes it that much more important. Whereas if the audio ads are just blaring at you all the time, riders just tune it out. So even if you're making announcements about service changes, no one's going to pay attention because it's just all these ads just going over and over and over. So I wanted to thank you, India Birdsong and the board and staff. I really think it's a huge improvement for customer satisfaction to not have those ads blaring and to really just keep the noise minimum to things that are relevant to RTA. So maybe there's a rail shutdown or single tracking happening over the weekend. You could have an audio announcement for that, but then it doesn't get mixed in with all the ads. I know when Jarrett Walker was here years before RTA hired him, he did a talk, it was like State of the City at the Old Stone Church, and he was like overwhelmed with how much ads he was hearing compared to other cities that he had
10
been to.
seconds.
And I was hoping I could go a couple minutes over since there's not many people here. Is that all right with the board, or I'll just keep it on point, I'm sorry. So anyway, thank you for that. Just some other suggestions. The main improvement for customer service in New York City has been countdown clocks. I don't know if that's been talked about at all, but real-time displays that tell you when the vehicles are coming, installed in bus shelters and rail stations. I know we used to have the Next Connect screens, but those have been broken for a few years, and I'm sorry if you discussed this, I came in late. But I think it would be a huge improvement because when you're staying at the bus stop in the winter...
Sorry, your time's up.
Okay.
If it's okay.
Do you mind if I finish my comment?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
If you're staying at the bus stop and you have gloves on and scarves and stuff, it's really like if to pull out your phone and keep checking on the real bus time, it's really inconvenient. So like if you just had screens that you could look at the bus stops and at the rail stations that also had service alerts, I think that would also help with the technology divide because then you wouldn't require a smartphone to know the real time. You just look up and you see it right there and it makes you confident that your bus is on the way. So I think that would be great. And just my last comment is the fare system. We have like all these different transfers, like a 5-ride ticket has 2.5 hours of transfer time. You pay cash on a bus, you don't get any transfer. When you pay in the current app, you get 60 minutes of transfer. I really want to encourage RTA to look at Detroit as a model. They have a 4-hour pass for $2, unlimited transfers for 4 hours. And then they have a 24-hour day pass for $5. And it's a true 24-hour pass. So if I start at 5:30 Today, it goes to 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. So it's not like our current system where if I start at 5:30 today, it expires at 3 a.m. And even with our current fare system, I was just down in New Orleans. They have a really old, the same exact ticket machines that we have on our current vehicles, and they do 24-hour passes. So if I buy it at 5:30, it's good till 5:30 the next day. So I know we can do this, and I think it will help out a lot. So thank you so much for allowing me to go overtime and for having this meeting in the evening. Keep up the good work, and I'm excited to hear see the new fare system. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other one? Oh, come on up. Sorry, sure. Me too.
Hey, good evening, everybody. And today, actually, the presentation, even as short, almost as short as I am, but it's very informative and important. And I'm glad, actually, Chris actually could stop by. Even we both are slightly late, but still, sorry about the public comments timing police. I have a couple points. For us to keep up with the good work, the customer service, the idea, the image, our public image, the communication is the key. For example, today you presented that smart TV idea, which is good. So if you are at a spot and right now you are with either umbrella, heavy gloves, coats, whatever, you cannot see on your phone, even you have one. That's a very good thing. People definitely appreciate that. However, if we only install that at a fixed locations, lots of time people also need to know that information when they are on the bus if they need to transfer. So the display we have been seeing on the bus are pretty limited. So if we want to encourage people to start using public transportation, one particular group we have been missing is the deaf community. They can see, but they do need to have a certain way for them to know where these things are. Now, for blind community, that will be the opposite. You put on smart TV, they may not know where that is. They go by the sound. Since right now, lots of people with different kind of disabilities, they have to use a fixed route as well, because not all of them can get on paratransit.
10 seconds.
So I think we should consider if we can also improve the displays inside the bus and rapid to help out. And also the good thing about that, without listening to those ads, we can actually listen to the important information. So you can actually program it when it gets to Tower City or some bigger spot. You do have lots of connecting bus. That's the section which you would tell people, remind people to either talk to the customer service or talk to whomever in that area so they will know all the connecting bus. That will help the people don't come to this area often, don't use this particular line often, or just pure tourists from out of town. That will be very, very helpful. And we want technology, but we also have to remember, technology sometimes may not suit everybody's needs. For example, the smart car, we want the cap. Yes, good idea. But you do have people, they use traditional phone, not smart enough, and they don't have email address. So what will be the means we can use to establish an account and other people cannot steal from them? So this is another obstacle you probably have to think into it. I may give you the some ideas, but that will be out of the meeting because I'm already out of the regular 2 minutes. But thank you for everybody listening.
We let you go.
Yes, I'm going.
We have one caller.
Okay, that one is one caller.
Go ahead, caller.
Good evening. This is Robert Wen from Cleveland. I wanted to thank Mike Lively for meeting with Clevelanders for Public Transit twice regarding the deployment of the new fare collection system, new mobile fare and smart card platform. I do want to point out a couple concerns. During the presentation at the committee meetings last week, it was mentioned that the remaining 2022 deployment includes 2 to 3 validators on rail vehicles, and that the Healthline vehicles will have 2 validators. In keeping with the goals of the strategic plan to improve how customers board and pay, it seems like this will create an unnecessary bottleneck, given that Healthline vehicles are equipped with 6 doors. Having 1 validator on each side will restrict passengers who are using the smart card or Easy Fare app to boarding in certain doors. And even more concerning is that it says remaining 2022 deployment for rail vehicles is 2 to 3 validators per vehicle. So I'm curious to know how will those validators be positioned? Will it be 1 per side of the vehicle, 1 on one side or 2 on the other, or just what will the arrangement be of the validators, especially on the heavy rail vehicles, which sometimes handle
10 seconds.
crowds like for sporting events? Similarly, I'd also like to encourage the board to consider weekly capping, not just daily and monthly, but I think that weekly cap could be a valuable price point for fairly regular riders. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, caller. Is there anyone else on the line? No? Do you have any?
That's all. That's all.
That's all? Was there any write-ins, and has anyone submitted anything?
Yes, we had 2. I think Chris kind of went over his comments. Did you want me to go over those, or?
If Chris already presented them, that's fine.
I think that's fine. One quick comment on Blue for people that don't have an email address. Maybe partnering with the library system and having a way to load your smart card with the library system. Again, I'm not sure if you talked about that, but just wanted to throw that out there as an idea. But that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
So if I can, I'll just.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
I'll just comment that we have been having internal discussions as of late to talk about just general fare equity, and also looking at or revisiting, I guess, and re-examining where we actually have those gaps. We actually had an interesting discussion about that that stemmed from an audit that was coming through on a different system, and looking at even food deserts and that kind of thing, right? As far as where do people go to be able to look at opportunities to get to a fare collection or fares, period. Whether you're a smart card or whether you want to load something you've already got, we've got to be making sure that we, I think, walk the talk, right, is what came up in the conversation. And I'm looking at Tony, because Tony, I think, was the one that said it. But being able to think about, are we really making sure that we're connecting folks by way of making sure that we're accessible? And if we only think about a couple of stores or a handful of places where people go, then we're not doing that. And so the idea of libraries came up, the idea of just revamping and looking at almost our sales pitch, if I can even say that. And some of the compatibility that Mike is talking about is really, I think, going to push us into a different zone, so to speak, to make sure that we have that accessibility increased. Because if you can't go to your local market, or if you can't go to your library, or you can't go to your community center, or whatever it is, and make sure that you also can buy a transit pass, then we're not quite as accessible as we want to be. But we also, to that end, have to get the buy-in from the owners of those establishments. And we also have to make it competitive, and we have to make it attractive. So we have to start to examine the financial end of that as well, to be able to think about the fees that are charged, to think about the processing fees and all of that, so that it actually entices those owners to take us on as part of their kiosk or part of their setup. So we are planning to take a deeper dive into that alongside Mike and his team, as far as working through what the next steps are with the fare collection. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. None? Thank you so much, Mike, for presenting. It's very exciting. I really like our meetings that we have, because this is my jam right here, so I love it. Thank you. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions or comments, I'm going to call the Ad Hoc Technology Committee close. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.